Chapter 96. Did they beat you? Hira looked at Nash in panic as tears welled up in her eyes. Nash smiled faintly. I'm not injured. It's their blood, not mine. I don't believe you. Show me. Saying that, Hira was about to lift his shirt when he grabbed her slender wrist. Men and women shouldn't touch each other so freely. You're playing with fire. If Hira were to see his scar, she might tell Lauren about it and he would be completely exposed. Although Lauren already had her guesses, she still maintained her skepticism. She still could not be sure that he was the smiling Grim Reaper. Please, you're my fiancé. Don't I even have the right to see your body? Hira put her hands on his hips and rebuked. I just want to take a look at your upper body. Are you that shy, big man? Nash rubbed his nose. Am I not human just because I'm a man? Why don't you show me your upper body too, then? He replied with a smile. Hira gritted her teeth. Fine, then look, she said as she pulled down the zipper of her dress while blushing. She had to confirm whether Nash was injured. Nash hurriedly responded, No, let me take a shower first. Then I'll show you. He quickly ran to the bathroom after he said that. Hira picked up her phone and called Scotty to ask her what happened tonight. Scotty told Hira everything she knew. Is he really not hurt? Hira still found it hard to believe. He's really fine. That's good. You should quickly rest. Hira then ended the call with a puzzled expression on her small face. Nash came out of the shower at this moment dressed in a pair of beach shorts. He was also wearing a pair of flip-flops and had his towel hung around his neck. It was also obvious then that there was not a single wound on his abdomen that was lined with muscles. He inhaled sharply as he dried his hair to make the muscles on his abdomen more obvious. Hira bit her index finger, her face red as an apple. His figure was amazing. Nash smiled and said, See, I wasn't lying to you. The blood was all from the bad guys. She stared at his abdomen intently. She did not look like she heard anything he said. Seeing this, he shook his head helplessly. Women liked something like this too, eh? So you're not hurt. That's good then. I'm going to take a shower too. Hira did not dare continue to look, so she grabbed her pajamas from the closet before making her way to the bathroom. Nash also grabbed his pajamas from the closet and put them on. He then took a seat on the sofa, where he proceeded to dry his hair. In the bathroom, Hira looked at herself in the mirror. Seeing that she did not have a single scratch on her face, she could not help but feel a little suspicious. She remembered being kicked till she was sent flying. She had also taken a kick to her face. Even if her skin was not cut, it should swell up, no? Yet, she looked totally fine. Recalling how Nash had massaged her while he had her in his arms just now, she realized that he must have healed her injuries. Nash had even treated her grandfather's cancer using dry needling. Treating light injuries like these must definitely be a piece of cake for him then. After she was done showering, she got dressed in her pajamas and came out. She smiled when she saw Nash lying down on the sofa obediently. Do you sleep on the sofa when I'm not around? Why wouldn't I sleep on the bed when there's one? Do you think I'm an idiot? Nash crossed his legs and scrolled through the videos on his phone. Hira smiled secretly. Then why aren't you sleeping on the bed tonight? Nash put down his phone, then turned to look at Hira. You want to share the bed with me? She wrinkled her nose mischievously. No, I think you should still sleep on the sofa. He clicked his tongue and went back to watching the videos on his phone. Hira picked up the hairdryer to use on her hair while her mind became filled with the image of Nash's solid six-pack abs. Chapter 97. She was considering whether or not to let Nash onto the bed. Although both of them rarely interacted, she felt very comfortable with him. Moreover, Nash was her fiancé, so it was reasonable for her to sleep with him. After a mental struggle, she still chose to give up the idea. She was worried that this would make Nash think that she was an easy person. She sat down on the bed and started sending messages to Scotty. Scotty, you can begin to imagine just how perfect Nash's abdominal muscles are. I won't believe it unless you show me a photo. No! He's my man. Look for one yourself. We're best friends. Do you think of me as some outsider now? They're just abs. It's not like I'm sleeping with him. You're not allowed to look at his abs either. So I see. I guess friendships do die after all. You're being so dramatic. Hira had just sent the last message when she heard a thunderstorm outside. It's thundering. Hira and Scotty sent to each other at the same time. Immediately afterward, lightning struck one after another, and the lights in the room went out. Nash had already closed his eyes, preparing to sleep, when he abruptly snapped them open again. It was autumn now, and thunderstorms were rare. The weather had not indicated that it would be thundering or raining the entire day today either. Even if the weather did suddenly change, lightning would not be so common either. Could it be? Nash stood up from the sofa and strode toward the window. He looked up at the sky and saw that it was filled with purple lightning. The abnormal weather seemed to have confirmed something extraordinary. Nash grabbed the iron rails of the window with both hands and said with his eyes turning scarlet, "Master, is that you?" His master was an immortal cultivator who had already passed his trail and ascended to godhood. Earth's spiritual influences had long been exhausted, and he finally ascended when he reached the end of his life. At the same time, somewhere deep in the mountains of Capitan, where a huge castle stood surrounded heavily by guards, a complex array had appeared above it at this moment. The array slowly rotated, and then a great number of cracks appeared. The array shattered, and a coffin broke through and out of the castle before floating up into the air. The lid of the coffin opened, and a white skeleton slowly sat up. Two balls of green flames burned in the empty eye sockets of the white skull. Its upper and lower jaw moved as it said, "Have you finally left?" The moment it said that, an illusory figure suddenly appeared in front of the coffin. It was an old man who exuded immortality. He stroked his beard and said lightly, "I almost forgot about you." After saying that, he lifted a hand, placed it on the coffin, and started pushing it back into the castle. The previously shattered array was then quickly restored. "I shall seal you for another 300 days. Once the 300 days are up, someone else will take care of you. Ah, Jonathan, I'll make sure you die a terrible death." The illusory old man smiled lightly. He then turned his head and looked toward Capitan before turning into a ball of light and disappearing. On Phoenix Island, a burly man was sitting cross-legged as he floated above the sea. He then slowly opened his eyes and looked toward the thundering sky with a mixed expression of joy and sorrow. Back in Hira's room, Nash knelt down on both knees and bowed 3 times while facing south. He had expected his master to ascend in the near future, but he did not expect him to ascend so soon. When Hira saw Nash on the floor and bowing, she became nervous. She secretly snapped a photo of him and sent it to Scotty. "Scotty, what do you think he's doing?" Scotty sent a horrified emoji before replying, "Could he have been possessed?" Chapter 98. What? Stop trying to scare me. Hira hugged the blanket tightly and shivered. Scotty replied with a long text, "I'm not trying to. Grandpa once saw someone who was possessed. The person looked stiff when they walked. It was like they had lost their soul." Nash got up slowly at this moment. His mind was blank, and he turned around while looking like he was in a daze. Nash had depended on his master ever since he was little after the young family village was burned to the ground. Now, his only support was gone. Although his master was not dead, his having ascended was no different from if he had died. His master had once said that once an immortal cultivator ascended to the immortal realm, they would no longer be able to enter the lower plane. Nash walked toward the sofa like a zombie, and fear shot through Hira. Trembling, she sent another message to Scotty. "Okay, you might be right. Would you like me to come over and accompany you?" He went and laid down on the sofa. "Then it should be fine. Maybe it's just a harmless ghost playing around." The sound of muffled thunder continued outside, which sent Hira ducking under the covers from fright. "Nash, are you all right?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I'm all right," Nash replied. Hira continued, Did you see something?" Nash smiled dumbly and asked, "Why would I have? Then why were you on the ground bowing just now?" "I thought of my master, so I just bowed to him." "Really?" Hira stuck her head out from under the blanket. She saw Nash lying on the sofa with a red light on his face. Just then, there was another round of thunder. "Oh!" Hira shrank back into the covers again in fright. Meanwhile, Nash was browsing through some islands in the South Sea. His master had left for the South Sea to look for a chance to break through his shackles, but he had no idea which island it was. The island he was currently looking at was Maple Leaf Island. The island was so full of red maple trees that the entire ground was blanketed with red maple leaves, which gave the island a dreamy effect. When Nash heard Hira yelp, he asked helplessly, "What's the matter with you? Why is your face glowing red?" "I guess it's just the light from my phone," Nash could not help but answer with a superficial snicker. Hira quietly lifted a corner of her blanket when she heard that and was slightly relieved when she noticed that Nash had his phone in his hand. The raindrops hit the window while the lightning and thunder came one after another. "Nash, aren't you afraid?" "What's there to be afraid of?" "The thunder." "I'm not scared of thunder." "I am a little." Hira closed her eyes tightly. She had hinted to Nash that he could come sleep with her, and thus, her heart was beating fast at this moment while her face was flushed red. She had even thought about what she was going to say next. She would say that he could sleep with her but could not touch her. Oh, Hira was stunned for a few seconds. Oh, did he not understand what she was trying to say? Hira asked unwillingly. "Is that it?" She felt the blanket lift the moment she said that. Then, a figure slid onto the bed and nestled beside her. Phone in hand, Hira received a message from Scotty just then. "Are you asleep?" The screen lit up and illuminated both their faces. Hira stared at Nash blankly. She had even stopped breathing. Nash was staring at Hira's flushed face with dark eyes before he said in a magnetic voice, "Are you still afraid now?" Chapter 99. Hira felt herself about to suffocate, and her heart beat faster and faster. It was not until the light of the screen went out that she opened her mouth slightly and took a sharp breath. "Are you asleep?" Scotty had sent her another message, lighting up her phone screen again. Hira saw Nash's face that was so close to her. The distance between the two of them was less than 10 centimeters. In a situation like this, Nash was also now blushing a little from Hira's breath. She smelled of her shower gel and shampoo. Her soft face was as red as an apple, making him want to take a bite out of it. Thunder struck again outside, and Hira shut her eyes tight. He slowly reached his arms out and held her tightly to his chest as he whispered, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." His deep and gentle voice relieved Hira's nervousness a great deal. She put her hands against his chest. She was only wearing her nightdress and nothing else. Nash did not dare breathe in her scent. He was afraid that he would not be able to hold himself back. He closed his eyes and held his breath before he focused on working his energy. Nash felt the energy in the point below his navel run rampant due to his distraction. He quickly restrained it back in. No wonder his master once beheaded his lover. Had his master's feelings for his lover hindered his cultivation? Hira tried her best to calm down the growing tension in her chest. She looked up at Nash and asked, "Are you sleepy?" "I'm good. I'm a little sleepy." "Sleep then." "I can't sleep when you're hugging me," Hira whined. Nash smiled and slowly released her. He then turned on his side and went to sleep. Not long after, he felt a pair of small hands suddenly embracing him from behind. He felt the softness of Hira's front through her thin nightdress. This time, it was his muscles that tensed up. Hira pouted and said, "I usually sleep with snow in my arms, but since you're taking its place, I'll just treat you like how I treat snow." After she said that, she closed her eyes and went to sleep. Nash took a deep breath and tried his best to suppress the restless fire in his body while Hira very quickly slipped into her dreams. The next morning, Nash opened his eyes after feeling the sunshine on his face. Hira was longer in the same sleeping position as she had been in the night before. She was lying on the bed with her legs around Nash's waist while her nightdress had ridden above her stomach. Nash's eyes registered her fair skin. Her straight and slender legs were rosy, looking like they shone. Her feet were plump, and her toes looked adorable. He looked upward and saw her white lace undies looking as thin as a cicada's wings. Hira stretched lazily, her legs straightening with the action. Nash felt his mouth go dry as blood rushed out of his nose. Fuck! He pinched his nose with one hand and covered Hira with the blanket with the other. He considered himself to have pretty impressive willpower and did not expect his nose to bleed. Hira rubbed her sleepy eyes and asked lazily, "Nash, What time is it? Nash glanced at the time. It's 10 minutes to 9. I'm gonna go. Hira suddenly sat up from the bed. Realizing that her nightdress had bunched up to her waist, she quickly smoothed it back down. When she saw Nash pinching his nose, she asked curiously, "What's wrong with you?" "I'm having a fever," Nash replied. Hira did not think too much about it. She just walked toward the bathroom while saying, "There are some fever meds in the drawer. Take 2 pills later." After changing into her work clothes and putting on some light makeup, she hurried off to the company. Nash also followed Hira to Baroque Group's headquarters, and they both saw Harrison all battered and bruised the moment they entered the office. "Dad, what happened to you?" Hira exclaimed. Chapter 100. Harrison had a hot towel on his face, while Lauren was looking for some medicine to help with his bruises in the first aid kit. "As if it wasn't your fault. We couldn't get in touch with you last night. We thought your uncle was up to no good again, so your father went to question him and they got into a fight when they started butting heads," Lauren said angrily. Nash had already told Hira the explanation he gave her parents while they were on their way to the company. Hira walked toward the desk and apologized guiltily. "Dad, I'm sorry I made you worry." Besides feeling sorry that her father had gotten beaten, there was also warmth in her chest. She knew she would always be her parents' treasure. "By the way, Hira, we've decided to postpone your birthday celebration for a few days," Lauren said helplessly as she grabbed a bottle of ointment and applied it to the bruises on Harrison's face. Hira was stunned. "Why?" "I've already notified several of my classmates and teachers." Harrison sighed and said, "Your uncle wants to bring Helena's birthday celebration forward to the same day. It's obvious they're trying to bully you. So, if we can't afford to offend them, why don't we just avoid them?" "Why should we avoid them? If she celebrates her birthday and I celebrate mine, then we won't be getting in anyone's way, no?" she said angrily. Lauren stuffed the bottle into Harrison's hand. "Do it yourself." She then turned to look at her daughter before answering her. "Your uncle's family has better connections in the family than we do. When those relatives all attend Helena's birthday rather than yours, will you be happy then? Will you still be able to celebrate your birthday?" Lauren did not want her daughter to experience a bad birthday and so chose to postpone it. Hira pursed her red lips, conceding sadly, "All right then. I don't think you should postpone Hira's birthday," said Nash all of a sudden at this moment. Both Lauren and Harrison looked at Nash. Hira forced herself to smile before saying, "It's okay. It's just postponing it. It doesn't matter if we celebrate it a few days later. They brought Helena's birthday celebration forward to bully you. If you postpone it, they'll gain an inch," Nash pressed. It was not like Lauren did not understand this. But if Hira and Helena were to celebrate their birthdays on the same day, Hira's birthday party will definitely be dismal, she said helplessly. Harrison echoed, "Not only that, Kai is going to celebrate Helena's birthday at the Chateau Hotel. The old man will definitely go there." Hira's eyes widened. The Chateau Hotel? That was the property of the Sky family in Capitan and the most luxurious hotel in Johnford. Even the most common membership card was not available to the Lewis family. Nash smiled slightly. "Hira, do you also want to hold your birthday party at the Chateau Hotel?" Hira felt herself shiver when she heard that. She then shook her head and answered, "I don't." It was no use even thinking about it. The Watsons were the wealthiest family in Johnford, and they had at least one Black Diamond VIP card in their hands. Even if she was able to spend $140 million just for a membership card, she would be inviting shame onto herself. What was more, it was impossible for her to fork up that amount of money. She would only be able to get $56 million after completing that project with Drake Group, and that project would take up at least a whole year. "Nash, can you book a room at the Chateau Hotel?" Lauren asked cautiously. She already had her suspicions about Nash's identity. Could Nash's question just now be implying that he had a way to enter the hotel? Nash nodded. "I have a friend who works at the Chateau Hotel. It won't be a problem for me to ask him for a private room." Hira hurriedly said, "It's okay. Let's not bother other people. So what if we can get a room? The Watsons will definitely get a room that's bigger than ours. We'd just be humiliating ourselves if we go." Lauren nodded. That's true, Hera continued. So it's decided. My birthday will be postponed to the 8th of the following month. Seeing how resolute her daughter was about this, Lauren said nothing. She just lowered her head and sighed. Meanwhile, in the Hill family's villa,